Good morning, friends, and welcome to this Monday edition of Take Two. It is July the 9th, 2018, and I hope you had a wonderful weekend, and I hope you're gearing up for great things in this week ahead. Well, I want to talk to you a little bit this morning about bumping carts with an old friend at Winn-Dixie. Now, I had a long day a couple of days ago, a really long day, and at the very end of it, I realized I was out and about, and I realized before I came home, Michael and I had been gone all day long running errands and doing things and meeting up with old friends, and I realized I had no milk in the house, a couple of little things I needed, so we went to Winn-Dixie on the way home, our usual stopping off place to pick up groceries and such. And while we were there, I was talking to my friend Robert, who works in the meat department, and we were just having a chit-chat. And while we were having a chit-chat, Michael said, well, let me just go run and get the milk, and I'll come back. And I said, fine. So he ran to go get it. But the next thing I know, I looked up, and standing in front of me was an old friend of mine I had worked with, who I'm going to call Lance. Now, Lance looked at me, and he walked with his hands stretched out to hug my neck, and I had a feeling that I knew what was going on. Michael had bumped into Lance on the way to the dairy department, and he had told him about my mother passing away, and he knew that that was something that's near and dear to Lance's heart because he himself had been a caregiver for his own mother, who passed away in recent days. And so, while he was caring for her, she had passed away. So he came up to me and we started talking, and he said, I just want to offer my condolences, etc. And then he began to tell me his story. And I know a lot of people mean well, and a lot of people will say things when they're trying to console you or what have you. But may I say this, Lance knew exactly what to say to me, and it was so poignant and so piercing of my heart that I wanted to share it with you. And this is what he said to me. He said, you know, I took care of my mother. He said he was a 30-something. He'd given up his own home so he could move back with his widowed mother and help care for her. And she was dying. She was very, very sick and dying. But it was a long, prolonged illness. And nobody knew exactly how long Lance's mom had. But he was willing to take as much time possible. He would go to work and come back, and then he would just be at her side. And as she grew worse, he actually even took a leave of absence from his job just so that he could care for his mom, who had this very, very gruesome, long, prolonged illness, and he was at her side every waking moment. Well, finally, came a day where he had to have something done with his car, and he was going to be gone for a short while, but he was very hesitant about going over and having this done because he just basically did not want to leave his mom's side. Every day with his mom was a touch-and-go day, so you never knew if this was going to be the time or not. And she'd just be going along and still, breathing and still living, but he just didn't know, and he was just so hesitant to leave. Well, he finally made the decision, look, I've got to have this thing repaired on my car. I'll only be gone an hour. So he said to his mom, is it all right with you? I'm just going to leave for an hour. I'll be right back. And she said, go take care of your car, of course. So he went, and he was gone not quite an hour. And in that little window of time, his mom passed away. So, of course, this was most devastating to him. He was very, very close with his mom, and this was just an extremely, extremely devastating thing that he went through. So he was sharing his heart with his best friend, and he was saying, oh, I can't believe it. Why did I leave? If only I'd been there, I could have been holding her hand when she had her last breath. And he rambled and rambled and rambled while his friend listened on. And then finally, at the very end of Lance's rant about how he woulda, coulda, shoulda, his friend looked at him and said, Lance, why are you trying to rewrite the end of this story? He said, you can't rewrite it. And he said, what? He said, you can't rewrite it. That's the way it was written, and there's absolutely nothing you could have done otherwise. You can't rewrite the ending. And let me tell you, when Lance was sharing this with me in the middle of the meat department at Winn-Dixie the other night, I thought, wow, maybe this is what I've been trying to do. Now, I am extremely grateful that I flew up, that I got to that facility. I got to go in my mom's room. I got to spend the whole day with her and the whole evening. She was in a very bad way. She was extremely grumpy and grouchy, and she couldn't breathe, and she couldn't swallow, and all this. And as gruesome as watching her in that pain and grumpiness was, those last hours were just awful. I'm still extremely grateful that I had the opportunity to be with her. Now, I did go through one of those, if only I had decided, look, just leave me here, I want to stay overnight with her, then maybe I would have actually been holding her hand when she took her last breath, because she did pass away all by herself in her sleep that night. And or in at least a dazed state. She just quietly slipped away. And I did go through that, well, woulda, coulda, shoulda, and what if, and all that. But when Lance shared those words with me about not being able to rewrite the ending, it just pierced me. And I thought, wow. So I started thinking about how life is like a book a lot of times. You know, there are some on this earth that only have a short time, you know, and they have little books. Their life is a little book. And let's see, we go to the ending. Yeah, there it is. There's nothing I could do about rewriting that one. And then there's some of us who are just, you know, they get to like middle age and they have like an average size book. Let's see, we'll look at the people I know that have passed away at that. Yeah, nothing I could do about that one either. And then, of course, you have my mother, who was just a few weeks shy of turning 89 years old. Oh, she had... Her book was a big one. It was a big one. Now, let's see. I could leaf through here and I could see, oh, yeah, born 1929. Okay, let's see what else. Married my father in the 1950s. My sister was born. I was born. Her granddaughter was born. Her great-grandsons were born. And isn't this interesting? Because right at the very, very end, 2 weeks or 3 weeks before she went, her great-grandson was born. He was just a little over 3 weeks old, Thomas, when my mother passed. But she got to at least be, that's right on the last page. And then I would go to the very, very last page, and that's it. June 22nd, 12:35 a.m., Staten Island, New York. The book is closed. And you know what? I can't rewrite that ending. That was the end of the book. No matter what. Now, I'm grateful that her book wasn't this thin, and I'm very grateful that it wasn't even this thin. I am so glad my mother got to have a book this thick. Not a lot of people can say that. So do I miss her? Yes. Was it a rough time, especially those last few months? Oh, yes. Just ask me or my sister, who were caregivers for her. Fran much more than I was, but my mother did live with us for a while, her first cancer journey. There was some rough times, but did we enjoy some good times too? Yes, absolutely, we certainly did. And she got to live quite a nice thick book. Would I have changed a few things? I think I may have if I could. But the truth of the matter is, I will never, ever be able to rewrite the ending on that story. So what I have to do is, every so often, I've got to pick up her book, and I've got to leaf through it, and go through the good times and the bad times, the good chapters and the bad chapters, and then at the end, when it says, and on June 22nd, that's it. That's what I have to settle for, that's the way it goes. And there's nothing I could have ever done to do anything differently about it. So if you're ever thinking about rewriting the endings to things, don't do it. All it'll do is make you crazy. Read the book again. Pick out the best chapters and the best parts you want to remember and think on those things. Learn from the parts that weren't too good. But don't ever, ever try to rewrite that ending, okay? All right. Thank you, Lance. I really appreciate running into you at Winn-Dixie. Now, go be a blessing to somebody today. You might end up being the only one who is. Lance sure was a blessing to me that day, and he won't ever know how much he was. I hope you're watching. And then also become a subscriber to my YouTube channel, JeanneSigler, Jeanne Sigler. Subscribe, hit that subscribe button, watch past Take Twos. I hope they bless you too. And we can never rewrite those endings the way they are. is the way it is. And then also please tune into my radio station for some great music at WRMZ.org. Click that listen button. And if you feel so inclined, a really good happy ending would be hitting that donate button to keep us on the air. I love you all so much. Thank you for your continued prayers and love. I can't tell you how much I appreciate them. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow for Tuesday's edition of Take Two. Bye-bye.